Okay,
Yay.
I think everyone's here that needs to be here. So if everyone will mute themselves, please. We're going to have Betty Ann Brown give us a presentation tonight on a show that she has curated. It's also a presentation on how to curate. But I'm gonna go ahead and let her jump right in. Welcome to our Kipaipai Friday Happy Hour. I hope you all have your cocktails, and we're in for an enjoyment, let's see, not enjoyment. We're looking, anyway, enjoy.
Enjoyable.
Enjoyable, there you go. I'm just too freaking tired. Okay, enjoyable evening with Betty Ann Brown.
All right. Hey guys, it's really, really good to be here with all of you. And I am turning on the PowerPoint, and I hope you can all see that. This is a PowerPoint that I actually created for a graduate seminar at Cal State Northridge some time ago. And what I endeavored to do with this is explain step by step what a curator does, because frankly, a lot of people don't know. And also to talk in specifics about a couple, actually, I mentioned 3 exhibitions that I've done. So I can hear something that is not coming from my house, so somebody needs to mute. Please make sure you're muted. Thank you. So what is a curator? Well, the word curator means one who takes care of. And in fact, that's precisely what we do as curators of contemporary art. We think about the exhibition. We find a place for the exhibition. We select the artists and the specific artworks, and we install the exhibition. All of that is part of the curatorial project. And then sometimes, in my case, often, the curatorial project includes writing. So I often write the edit and design the exhibition catalog. You all are probably not going to do that with your Kipaipai curatorial projects, but you could, and I want you to keep that as a concept, because, or as an option, I should say, because exhibition catalogs are the enduring record of exhibitions. And so maybe you want to have some kind of permanent record, and that would be the place to put it. Anyway, what does a curator need? You need certain skills and certain priorities. You need to have a good understanding of contemporary art. I'm assuming that everybody here has that. You need to be familiar with local art venues, their policies, and their people. And if you're not there yet, wait till COVID's over, and then make a point of being like Andi Campognone and drive around and look at art and go to art galleries all the time. A third prerequisite for being a curator is that you need to know how to deal with artists and their often, I say, volatile egos. Artists are personally invested in their work, not just you. All artists are personally invested in their work. And so it is like walking on eggshells sometimes to say things like, I don't think that particular work is the best way to represent yourself in this show. Or I don't think your work should go there. I don't think it flatters your work. And you have to be able to say that to make the show good, but you also have to be able to deal with the sometimes explosive responses to that. So as I say here, the bottom line, as a curator, you need to spend a lot of time looking at art and talking to artists, which, you know, those are my 2 favorite activities after, you know, hanging out with my son and my grandson. And I hope they are favorite activities of yours as well. So I put this step-by-step agenda here for how to do the curatorial practice. As I say, start by looking at a lot of art. both in galleries and in artist studios. I personally think it is ideal to see the art in person rather than depending on everything online. And I think that going to galleries and seeing the art exhibited on the wall in relation to other artworks, and going to the artist studio and seeing where the artist is coming from, generates a different kind of understanding than just cruising the internet. After you've looked at a whole lot of art, you need to come up with an idea for the exhibition. And I've listed 3 different ways to generate a concept for an exhibition. The first thing you might want to do is focus on an individual or individuals who haven't received enough critical attention and need to get more attention. One exhibition that I did a few years ago was a retrospective of the work of a man named John White. And I'm guessing that at least some of you have never heard of him, although he was one of the earliest performance artists in the Southern California area. Another artist you might not have heard of is Inzia Farrell, who is what Robert Williams calls a pop surrealist and is an astonishingly gifted artist. I'll show you some of her work in a minute, but not very well known. So I have put both of them in exhibitions because they aren't very well known and I want to give them more exposure. Another way to organize your exhibition is to identify a theme that several artists are grappling with. And you all have seen themed exhibitions about the environment, about various wars, about spirituality, about guns, and now, God knows, about this pandemic. A third option is to look at materials. How are certain media being used? How is video being used? How is large format photography being used? So those are 3 different ways to cut through and try and find a concept for your exhibition. If you find a concept, it should hold the art together. It should be the glue for the exhibition. After you've come up with a concept and thought about a few, maybe not all, but a few of the artists, you need to write up a proposal for the exhibition. This is usually a short essay, less than 1 page, but you need to have something concrete written about the exhibition to anchor it. And if we were talking about curating in pre-COVID days where all the venues were open, you would shop this concept around to appropriate art venues. You'd go to Mary Karnowski and talk to her about your project and see if she's interested in putting your exhibition up at her gallery. You should be familiar enough with the venues that you approach to know if your concept would work with their programs. When artists ask me, how do I find a gallery? My first answer is, well, I'm not the person to help you because I don't work with galleries, I don't sell art, and I'm not involved in that. But at the same time, I say, the best way to find your gallery is to go out to all the galleries you can, to see all the shows you can, and recognize when a gallery shows art like yours. Because then they're familiar with that particular visual language and they might be interested in what you can give them. So here is a curatorial statement. This is the actual curatorial statement. I'm not going to read it. It's now recorded. And by the way, if you want a PDF of this presentation, I can email that to you. Just write me after the evening. But what I've done with this curatorial statement is show you 3 paragraphs, not very long, fits on 1 page. And I underlined 2 sentences that are intended to say why this exhibition is going to be important. So the first one, as you see up there, is this retrospective exhibition will situate White's work in the place of prominence it deserves. And then down below, the last sentence tells about the general kinds of work that will be in the exhibition. So I've named several of his artworks, and I've talked about the kinds of artworks that he does, and I've talked about why his work needs to be exhibited. Those are things you want to do in a curatorial statement. And this exhibition was presented at the Pasadena Armory Center for the Arts. Now, this was years ago, but it was tremendously successful and really exciting, and the catalog is beautiful. So that's a sample curatorial statement. For what you're doing for Kipaipai, if you want to curate a show and talk about it, you don't really necessarily need a curatorial statement. I don't think that people are going to ask you to show it when you present the exhibition, but I promise you writing it down will clarify what your goals are. And I'm going to say right now that if you write up a page-long curatorial statement and want some feedback on it, I'm your man. I'll be more than happy to talk you through the statement and help you make it as strong as possible. So once you've got the idea, and then you've got the venue, a place where you're going to put it, the third step is to finalize a list of artists to be included. I'm going to show you in a minute an exhibition I did with a large group of artists. I went to every one of their studios. I visited some of their studios more than once, and I talked with them about which artworks were going to be included and why. And as I did so, I began to think about how they would be installed and how they would interact, the artworks would interact with each other. Now, if you go and visit their studios, you will need to generate a precise and detailed list of artworks for the exhibition. You've got to do this, the titles, the media, the dimensions, and if it's a commercial art gallery that sells art, you need to know the cost. So not only do you have to choose the artists, but you have to choose the specific artworks, and you have to generate this list. Part of the challenge of being a curator is that curators, as you see here in this note, function like editors. They select and evaluate artists' work for exhibition. And the challenge is that just as no writer can edit her own text, you guys, even Stephen King, the most highly paid American writer, does not edit his own books. He has professional full-time editors go over everything he writes and tell him what works and what doesn't, and what to cut and what to expand on. In that way, no artist can really see which of her works are best for a specific exhibition. You need outside eyes to edit writing, and you need outside eyes to edit artworks. Artists don't like to be edited. And I can tell you as a writer myself, I don't like to be edited. I understand that. But I also take it on faith. I believe that editing a text makes it stronger and more clear. And I think curators can edit artists' works and present them in the best possible way. The next step you have to do, if you're going to have any kind of text accompanying the exhibition, is write them. If you work with a museum, you're going to have to write information labels to go on the wall. But if you do a catalog, all of that has to be in the catalog. I have often written, designed, and gone to the printer with the exhibition catalog. It is a hands-on job, you guys, if you want to do that. I've got a paragraph in the middle here that I think is important. You need to keep your audience in mind, both with the catalog and the exhibitions. These are for the general public. We don't write just for art world people, And we don't curate just for art world people. We want the general public to be attracted to and engaged by our exhibitions and our texts. So you should do all of this. Whoops, I just found a typo. You should do all of this with the awareness that your audience may not have much prior knowledge about contemporary art or art in general. Here is step number 6. You have to design the exhibition using a floor plan of the gallery and consulting the artworks for dimension. You, as a curator, are responsible not only for selecting for the works, but also for hanging them and figuring out how they're going to talk to each other in the exhibition. This is a really important fact. Art never is seen alone. Art is always seen next to or across the room from other art. Has anybody here been to Marfa, Texas, to see the astonishing minimal art sculpture, Sistine Chapel ceiling out there in West Texas? Well, the reason that it was created was to give these artists great big venues where only their artwork would be shown in a huge warehouse-like space. So Donald Judd took a train through West Texas, fell in love with the environment, and bought an old army base. And every one of the warehouses and every one of the great big buildings was transformed into a space for an individual artist. So Donald Judd has this huge space, and there are a lot of artists there, but they're never exhibited together. They're all, according to what the artist wanted to do, by themselves. We don't have that luxury. We don't get to do exhibitions for great big army bases that are empty. We've got to figure out how the artworks are going to interact. And the way they are hung and the way they talk to each other in the exhibition is always going to affect the way they are seen. In order to get the general public there, you have to do press. So you'll probably need to write press releases if you're, again, working at a traditional brick and mortar venue. And you want to cultivate your relationships with other writers to inspire them to write about your show. Your curatorial statement is a good basis for the press release. And people often say to me, how do I get somebody to write about my show? Well, the first thing is do really exciting, kick-ass work that they can't not want to write about. But frankly, as with almost everything in the art world, your personal relationships are key here. Can you have an authentic friendship with various writers where you can say to them, hey, you know, this is something I'd really love for you to look at and maybe write about. That's up to you. You've got to develop those relationships. If you're lucky enough to work at MOA, the Andy's venue, you will have, the museum will transport the artwork to the site and insure everything. That's not always the case, you guys. I have transported art to many, many exhibitions. I used to have a tiny little convertible, and the reason I had it was so I could take the top down and put art in the back seat. I don't know if I'd be willing to do that now, but in my youth, I certainly picked up art all the time. Once the artwork is on the site, you need to be there and help the installers put it up. Sometimes you're going to be the installer. So if you can figure out how to use a hammer and nail, they'll put you to work. After you've conceived the artwork, picked the artist, picked the artworks, written about it, gotten it hung on the walls, sent out the press, now you get to be nervous about the opening. What are you going to wear and how will people respond? Every time I curate a show, I have crazy anxiety about how people will respond. I've put months of work into something. It means the world to me. And if people hate it, it's just devastating. They don't usually hate it. Don't worry about that. That's not the likely response. But of course, you're going to be nervous about that. And this is a very personal reveal, this number 10. The morning after that nervous anxiety opening, I do this literally. I've done this literally so many times. I swear I will never do it again. It's too much work and too much heartbreak. And, you know, I'm always like, okay, that's it. I'm not doing that again. And then I see something about an artist or an artwork that really interests me. And I begin thinking about doing a show with them. It like happens almost immediately. So once you get into this, organizing art exhibits and communicating with people through art exhibits, you'll see it's an addictive practice. It's hard work. It's sometimes really frustrating and heartbreaking, but it's a wonderful way to engage with the world. So those 10 steps are what I came up with for not somebody who's a full-time curator at a museum, but an independent person, let's say an artist, and what they need to do to organize and install an artwork, an art exhibit. I said I would talk about 2 exhibitions that I've done just so you can get an idea of how these 10 steps add up to a final product. 4 or 5 years ago, 4 years ago, I guess, I curated an exhibition for an alternative space in downtown LA called Ground Space Projects. It no longer exists, but it used to be a really cool alternative space. And I curated this show with Jodi Sherman. So I often work in collaboration because I love the idea of multiple perspectives on pretty much anything. And because I wanted to do a lot of, again, what Robert Williams would call pop surrealism in this show, I called on the curator I think of as the star curator of pop surrealism, Jodi Sherman. And she and I went to all the studios together and picked the artists together. And it was really fun. This show would have been a completely different thing if I hadn't had a partner. And she's a good one. So this is the exhibition statement. And it is a show that involves 7 artists. I'm not going to show you all the work by all of these artists, but I'll show you some works by Jodi Bonassi, Bibi Davidson, Inzia Farrell, who's the not as well-known artist that I mentioned earlier, Laura Larson, Deirdre Sullivan-Beeman, Sil Semet, and Lauren Y.S. So those are the artists. And then this places them in historical context and then ends by talking about what the goal of the exhibition is. So I was really lucky that there was a just stunningly positive response to this project. My goal was to bring together a lot of women like Bibi Davidson and see how they deal with pop surrealist, feminist fantasy, and it had to be figurative, and it had to be a little troubling, a little disturbing. I was also interested in people who included animals in their work, like Bibi does in this particular piece here. Here's Inzia Farrell, who's the artist I mentioned before. And again, you can see it's figurative work with animals. Like Bibi, her work can be called pop surrealist. It is often troubling and nightmarish, but kind of wonderful and charming as well. Here, oh, that's not a good slide. These are by Inzia Farrell. There you go. The close-up is telling. She's an astonishingly gifted painter and has this brilliant, fun imagination. Another artist in the exhibition is Jodi Bonassi. I'm guessing many of you know her. She is also a figurative artist. Her work is very surreal and sometimes troubling, but often lots of fun and engaging. And she always has animals in her work, sneaking a monkey in there, a dog, a cat. This is, by the way, a portrait of Susan Feldman Tucker, whom I know that a lot of you know. Sil is an Israeli artist who deals with pop surrealist themes that are, frankly, disturbing. Like the one you just saw, the Madonna child, right below it, we have two cats having sex. Animals.
Yeah.
So this is an Inzia Farrell, this is a Sil piece. These are by Laura Larson, and this is by Lauren Y.S. This is coming into the exhibition, so I painted this wall, had this wall black. I love painting the walls different colors to bring out different qualities in the artwork. So that is the black wall. Tells you everything you need to know about the accuracy of photography, doesn't it?
Thank you.
Solid black matte wall. And this is Lauren Y.S. And the second exhibition I wanted to share with you, I also did in collaboration. It was for the alternative commercial gallery on La Brea called The Loft at Liz's. That is literally on the second floor above Liz's antique hardware store. And I was invited to curate a show on guns. And I brought Liz, whose gallery it is, in to be a co-curator, as well as a collector, Anita. And there were lots of artists in this exhibition. Here's the list of everybody participating. And there are definitely some Kipaipai people there, but also, of course, lots of people who aren't part of our group. This is basically a statement about the exhibition, but I generated it as a Facebook page to get people to start talking about the issue of guns. And this was also 4 years ago. And talking about how guns are so controversial and divisive, and how do you respond to that, and how does this or does this not relate to your work?
Can I jump in here real quick, Betty?
Sure.
I think that this is a really great point that you made about creating other ways to share the information. And I think this time right now, this whole COVID time and kind of the change in what's happening with commercial galleries, that's a really great point to make, that you don't necessarily need to worry about it being in a gallery, but there might be content here that could be appropriate for other forms and other output, right? So having a Facebook page for the exhibit, even though it's not about the exhibit, but it's about a place where people can go and have this conversation, is really, really important. So artists should think about that when they are in a show, offering some kind of alternative for the community to engage if they can't actually go into the gallery to look at the work.
Right, and obviously we're still facing months of not being able to go into galleries. And I mean,
Yeah,
maybe not too many months, but months. And I think that it's particularly important now for us to keep the conversations going. So what are the issues that concern you? What do you want to talk about? Throw it out there. Create a Facebook page. Do it on Instagram. Do it with email with your private friends. Do a Zoom. And in fact, that's why we're talking today. Because Andi and me with Andi, we are inviting you to do a curatorial project. Come up with a group of artists or a theme or a material that you want to grapple with, and start the conversation. Pick artists who might want to be part of that dialogue. Putting your work into a new and different context is going to be good for you. One of the things I always say to artists is, get your work out of the studios, even if it's just take it home, put it on mom's wall, so that you can see how it looks in a different context, because context changes the work every single time. But anyway, yeah, thank you, Andi. We've got to deal with alternative ways of having our art out there. And because our art is part of our conversation, having our conversation out there. So Jodi Bonassi was actually in both of the exhibitions I'm talking about today. And she did this piece about guns, children, and gun violence. Cheryl Dolivan is another local artist, and she did a group of artworks about female sharpshooters from the Old West.
Love these people.
So I'm just going to urge whoever that is to please mute yourself. We can all hear you. So these are Cheryl Dolivan's pieces. And these immense paintings here by Alex Kritsalis. You all know Mark Stephen Greenfield. He was also in the show. And this is one of his pieces with guns. Milo Reice is a figurative artist who did an immense piece about guns. Right there it is. Can't really tell the scale, but these are, normal stairs. So it's what, 10, 12 feet tall. It's an amazing piece about gun control and gun violence. Miles Regis is also a painter, and he did several pieces for the show. This is Meg Madison, who did several pieces with guns as well. And this is the last image I want to show you. I'm sure many of you know the photographer Osceola, and he did a whole series of, he often works out in the desert, and he did a whole series of people who live in the desert and their guns. And what I like most about the body of work that we put in this show is there's no judgment on it. It's not like anybody looks at this couple and thinks, oh, what horrible right-wing ideologues that, I hate that they have guns. They just seem like nice, natural people who, as you can tell back here, are hunters and have their hunting rifles. I think it was an important addition to the exhibition because it's so easy for liberal people to imagine everybody agrees with them, or conservative people to imagine everybody agrees with them. But not everybody agrees. And that's part of why this issue of gun control is so divisive. Anyway,
Hi, may I mention something? Hi, Betty. How are you? It's Liz.
hey Liz.
Hi. And I just wanted to say how fantastic it has been to work with you in at least
Thank
2
you.
or 3 different shows, most of which have some sort of social context behind it, which is another important aspect of what we try to do over at the Loft at Liz's. And so this one was affiliated with Women Against Gun Violence, and it was also speaking to what had happened with all the gun violence in all the schools and so on. And I think this is also an important aspect of curating when you can be sharing something that really needs to be talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a really big, important part of the show as well.
I just want to jump in here again. For all of those folks that don't know, Liz Gordon owns the Loft at Liz's, and she is a fabulous champion of both emerging artists and mid-career artists. Every conversation I've ever had with her has been wonderful, and we've worked together on a few projects, and she is, I'd say, one of the more artist-friendly venues in Los Angeles. She's really concerned with the artists and their future and highlighting them in the best possible way. And she's a really, really incredible human being. So for those of you who don't know and you haven't had the chance to meet Liz, and maybe someday when we get to reopen the world, you should definitely go visit her and see her space and introduce yourself, because she's a pretty special human being.
Well, if I could, thank you, Andy, so very much for that. That is really wonderful. I would like to say that currently there is another socially directed show at the gallery. Despite all of this, although we didn't have an opening, we did put up a show. It's called Skin Deep, Then and Now. And I actually was going to propose that maybe I could do one of these Kipaipai nights with that current show, even though most of the artists I don't think are Kipaipai artists.
Yes,
but,
yes.
And I was going to propose it. We've extended the show and so on. And I'll talk more about that in the future. But what I want to do is invite everybody. The gallery is open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 6. You don't have to make an appointment. All you have to do is just show up and walk through my store, follow the arrows, and go upstairs. We couldn't have an opening, but this is a really poignant, profound show that deals with race relations between blacks and whites. It's a conversation that needs to continue, absolutely needs to continue, and it seems that there is no conversation. I'm sorry?
I'm a white artist. I don't know what to say to you guys.
Cece, can you mute yourself?
Sorry.
So I just wanted to say, you don't have to make an appointment. You can just come, walk through the store, and go upstairs. It's a very, very poignant show dealing with race relations between blacks and whites. And it seems that there is no conversation unless there's total chaos or millions of people on the street all over the country in protest. So this is a way to help keep that conversation alive. And given the choice to be able to introduce it on the Kipaipai Friday night would be an absolute honor. And we'll talk about that, I guess.
Yeah, let's
Andy,
talk about that offline. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Liz.
Thank you so much for letting me speak.
Yeah.
Bye. I'm on, but I'm going to mute.
Well, Liz, I want to thank you too. I mean, I have enjoyed working with you tremendously, and I hope you do present Skin Deep here on Kipaipai, because I think that's precisely what we're going to do now. We're going to roll out to talk about ideas and issues in exhibitions, and hopefully a lot of the Kipaipai artists will want to create these virtual exhibitions, and down the line make them brick and mortar realities. So let's keep this as, you know, a project that's going to be stage one for something that might evolve down the line.
I have to say the direction of Kipaipai right now in terms of what you're all doing, I think is really fascinating. There's a new level of creativity in terms of how you're using this hour that when I first saw you do this a few weeks ago, I thought, oh, I would like to actually present that here. It's a really supportive, wonderful group, and it's fantastic that you've offered this to the curators as well, or artists to be curators, and so on. There's a lot of creativity happening here.
Thanks, Liz.
So thank you.
And Liz is absolutely right. I just wanted to present that so you could have like a concrete listing of step-by-step what it takes to be a curator. And I hope that has helped you. But for the Kipaipai Happy Hour series, you're not going to be curating something with a specific venue. You're going to, although you may have a venue in mind, but you're going to create the idea of an online exhibition with your work and the work of other artists who, as I say here, travel in your same creative territory, or whose works present interesting contrasts with yours. You can have the other artists be Kipaipai artists, but they don't have to be. And as I said, you can design the exhibition with an actual venue in mind or just for a digital presentation. And my last two sentences are key here. You can partner with another artist. You can invite another person to help you do this. If you feel like, oh, it's overwhelming, I don't think I can do that right now. Don't do it by yourself. Find one or two friends, people you're comfortable with, people you've worked with, and generate the proposal that way. And the last thing is have fun. Curating can be really cool and really fun. And I think Andy's idea of having you guys do imaginary curatorial projects, it's going to help you in every way. There's going to be no wasted time. Even if you never curate an exhibit for a brick and mortar space for the rest of your life, still going through the process is going to help you appreciate what it's all about. And then you'll understand more about how you can interact with the curators and the spaces that offer possibilities for you. I know so many of you, and I am so aware of how creative and interesting you are. I have no doubt that you guys are going to come up with some actually great exhibitions. So I'm here to help you, especially on the writing, or if you say, you know, I've got this idea for blah, 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 what do you think? You know, I can tell you if I've heard of a show that relates to that. I can tell you if I've heard of anybody who might be great in it. I can tell you, you know, I can give you feedback. Andy can too. We are here for you. And we want to see your creativity at work. So I'm challenging you. I mean, we've already got Liz Gordon to do it. Let's see who we can get next. Does anybody out there have an idea or a project that they'd like to toss out here? Please unmute if you do.
Yeah. I'm so excited about the opportunity here to see some of your ideas. Again, this is in addition to, as Betty pointed out, an opportunity for you to understand the relationship between you and what a curator does and how they come to what they do. That relationship is very key, but it's also a really great challenge for you to understand how your work fits in the context of other artists, other genres, and being able to see how you would like to see your work presented in the world, not just in your studio and, you know, your idea of what you think that you made, but how does it speak to other art out in the world? How does it speak? Because it's never going to be alone. It's always in the context of something else, like Betty said earlier. So we want you to really think about what it is that you want to come out of your work, and how it is that you want your work seen in the public. So I'm super excited to have everybody here tonight. Betty, do you want to unshare your page, and then we can get everybody back in the gallery mode? And then, thank you. And then does anyone have any ideas that they want to share, or are we kind of done tonight?
Well, Michelle just said that she's got an idea and then she wants to throw it out. So I say, yes, Michelle, let's hear you.
Aloha, Betty. Thank you so much for this. Aloha, everyone.
Hi.
Hey, Michelle.
I was thinking that I'm busy to do this right now, but I've been writing down ideas as they've come to mind. And when Liz spoke up, that prompted yet another idea. So I'm going to throw it out here. It's not polished by any means, but here we go. Okay, Betty, you know that I like to do metal point drawings.
Right.
And sometimes my metal point drawings are done with an object of an origin and of a material that I'm not clear on. And so that's a test for me to see. I have this hashtag, if it makes a mark, draw with it. And then, you know, if it has a metal content, then I do a drawing of a thing. And sometimes I draw the thing with itself. So when Liz's venue was mentioned as being above an antiques shop, it occurred to me, what if I prompted a show that prompted artists to do that sort of experimental drawing with a thing, and it could be called Meta Metal Point or something like this, but also maybe we could peruse the downstairs, the items that populate Liz's shop, and then see if those items could become the drawing implements for the
That would be so fun. That would be so fun.
Amazing. Yeah, that's amazing.
Liz?
Okay, so I'm thinking that I could do my presentation of the show, but maybe I could do, I don't know, maybe two, where I'm actually doing one of the store, and then one of the gallery for the show that's currently up there. I don't know, that might be hogging up too much time, but I could
But you
certainly
can
do.
Liz, do both things in one night. We don't have to stop at 45 minutes. You can go for a whole hour if you want.
Okay, so we'll figure out a time slot for that. I'm not, Betty, I'm not very good with PowerPoint or any of that, but I'm okay with walkthroughs, especially with my cell phone in my hand. So we'll talk about all that and then figure out scheduling, okay?
That sounds great. That sounds super. And I think a lot of these artists will be really inspired to see the materials that you have in the store. That could be amazing, like, implements to create with. So I love that idea, Michelle. Way to go. And that's exactly what we're talking about, like thinking outside the box and like figuring out if there's something else that you can do.
What does that mean?
In your studio, creating traditional materials.
Slightly less dense.
More yeast.
Hey, you
This
guys,
is Stevie.
mute yourself if you're not talking.
I'm trying to figure out who it is.
I would like to talk. I think I unmuted myself. Can you hear me, Stevie?
Yes.
We can. Hey, Stevie.
Hi. Hi, Betty. Hi, Andy, and everybody.
Hi.
I got inspired about a month ago. You guys are talking about, putting shows together. And so I'm putting together a PowerPoint. I'm so excited about it.
Yay!
I have like 6 artists so far, and I'm, writing about how they relate to this idea I have of meta-human, which I'm so stoked about. But it's taken me a while to put it together and to gather images and talk to the artists and get them, to agree. Everyone has agreed so far. So I don't think I'm going to be ready until January, but I'm really excited, you guys. I think it's going to be really a fun PowerPoint. Yeah, it's going to be entertaining, which is my purpose at this
Yay!
point.
And you're thinking about your work in the context of others, right? And thinking about it in a different context than you creating something in your studio.
Oh yeah, it's opened up a whole new ideas for me. It's definitely done that.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. Anybody else?
Well, if you go back through all the the comments, it's kind of amazing how many people are saying they want to do it. We need somebody for next week, though.
Betty, before we get into that, I have a question for you about
Yes.
this kind of presentation that we'll be doing. I'm assuming is going to be more an online PowerPoint of various artists that we want to include. So in terms of the work talking to each other, which they certainly do, do you have any suggestions on how to line them up so when they come through a PowerPoint, they're actually doing exactly that?
Just put them on the same page. If you have work that you want to show, that's one work speaks to another work, or you have there are visual reasons why something is next to something else, just put them on the page together so people can see them together.
Oh, okay. That's a good idea. All right.
Easy. Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
I'm like the cheater curator. So many places that I have to curate are not close to where I live. And I usually only get one shot. So it's like I fly there either during the layout or the installation, or I go once the show is already done and I'm there for the opening. So my cheater thing, and I think my friends in Hawaii know about this because I was in quarantine during our last show at Kahilu. And so I had to curate on my kitchen table. So I took photographs of, I had all the work, and then I made printouts of them and cut them out and tried to get them relatively in the right scale of the sizes. And then I had this big long piece of white paper on my dining room table in Hawaii and laid everything out and shuffled all these little printouts to figure out what spoke to what the other piece, and scale and color and line and content, right? And that's my little cheater thing. Occasionally I'll have to do that at the museum because we'll be putting something together and I don't have walls to like actually go lay everything out and walk through. I mean, there's something beautiful about being in the space when you're laying a show out, but if you can do it without being in the space, then you have a real talent, because that's very hard to envision spatially how things will work. But I promise you that the cheater layout works if you do it on your dining room table with just cutouts of the images. And it's actually really satisfying. I sometimes will do that after being at an art fair, and there's work that I've seen that I loved and I took pictures of, and it's artists I may never show, but I'm just so into it in the moment. I'll like print those out and I'll scoot everything around on my desk. I'm like, oh my, imagine this with this, and imagine like that piece speaking to that piece. And sometimes it's just putting those two images together, and that will be the inspiration for a whole series of shows at the museum.
So I could do a PowerPoint and maybe have like 4 artists' imagery at the same time.
Yes, absolutely.
And
I think that's the best way to present it anyway.
Yeah, that opens it all up.
Yeah.
I have a question. Like I always, it's funny, I've always like considered myself a closet curator. It's like I always am thinking about like, wow, this work would look so crazy amazing together, and I would love to take this artist and that artist and put things together. Do you think it's better to dream big, like right away?
yes.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I like living in Hawaii, all I can, and it's like I logistically go into this place of like, how can we afford to get this piece here? And how are you going to ship this piece over a border from here? It's like I'm always thinking about like the logistical problems of like doing something like that. And it's like so I guess you think it's just better to dream. Let's like put this together.
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Put Michelangelo in the show.
Yeah, do it.
Why not?
Yeah, that's another idea though too, Betty, right? Like how do you see your work fitting historically, right? How, in the context of
Absolutely.
history, how is your work important? Who do you think that your work relates to? What artists do you think that you're expanding on their ideas and concepts from another era? That's another also really great way to move forward with a show, I think, or with a concept show, which is basically what we're doing here. And you have the luxury of being able to go back and choose anyone from the last 10,000 years. You could do cave drawings if you wanted to, and show the work, right, in the context of, because we have images of everything. You can go on the internet and pick whatever you want. This is a really great exercise in for yourself in understanding how relevant is my work.
Yes.
And how do I want it to be perceived by others?
So Andy, I want to just piggyback on what you said. I also do little like flashcard layout. And I always go into an exhibition with a layout of how I'm going to hang the show, and it always changes. I don't know, you weren't there when we were installing the Betty Allison and Leslie Sarr show, but there was an Allison Sarr sculpture that involved something like 40 different pieces, and I made them move it twice.
Of course you did.
Because the first place I put it wasn't good enough, and the second place I put it wasn't good enough, and it had to be perfect.
And you just don't know until it's really on the wall, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
Just
right. And
don't know.
sometimes it gets on the wall, and then, you know, oops, I don't think so. Now we got to do it again. Now we got to do it again. But
I just wrote that. It's so funny. I just wrote that. I said, it never fails that when I'm hanging a show, I always make changes, no matter how much I've thought about it. And I just love hanging shows for that reason. They are so creative. The process is so creative. I just love that. To hear you say that, Betty, is phenomenal.
well, I think that's the point here, is that it is a very creative practice.
It's an art.
Yeah.
And you guys are all incredibly gifted artists. You've got the creativity. So turn it this way. It'll help you see your art from a different perspective.
For those of you who don't know Christine Farouge, who's also been speaking up right now, she is an artist, but she also has a venue. She has Work Shack in Oakland and is part of the larger Oakland Art Walk, and you should connect with her. She has a great curatorial practice as well. I've been bugging her for years saying, I think you might be a better curator. It's in her, it's there. So connect with Christine. She's also a Kipaipai fellow and has this beautiful space. So, and an opportunity to show in Oakland.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, for me, this is really great because, you know, I have learned a lot as an artist about how I interact with curators and potentially galleries because of being a curator and a gallerist. And I think like this opportunity is really vital. I'm excited about it because I curate other people's work, but I've never curated my work with other artists. And for this exercise, I will be doing that. And I've had a lot of questions about how my work would go with other work in a good, well-curated group show. So this is super exciting to me. But I think everything behind curation for an artist, it just really teaches you so much.
Yes.
So I think this is a really great opportunity, and I'm super excited about it. And I hope that everybody like does, you know, go through it to do those, that there's just like a learning process that's going to happen from trying to curate a show with including your art. So
and if you have questions, remember every morning, every Wednesday morning.
Every morning!
Not every morning. Not every morning. Not every morning.
You know we'll bug you if you do that.
Every
Careful what you
Wednesday
wish for.
morning from 9 to 10 Pacific Standard Time. I have open office hours, which basically means I'm on my Zoom sitting here working for an hour, and you can drop in. I have posted that link both in I Am an Artist Network, and also on Facebook. So if you want, this week was my first week, and we had two, Randy and also Jane showed up, and we had a really great conversation. And I'm looking forward to being there for all of you in that morning, and that way there's no excuses that, oh, I didn't know, I didn't have anyone to talk to, I didn't have anyone to ask. I'm there every Wednesday morning from 9 to 10. So find the link. It's on the Kipaipai Fellows group page, and it's also in the new platform, I Am an Artist. It's also posted there. So you, and that's another thing that's coming up, but I will be sending all of our Kipaipai Fellows an invitation to join I Am an Artist Network, which is pretty fantastic. Super excited about it. You'll see that in the next week or so.
Great. That sounds great. It's very exciting. And I just wanted to share that. And I don't know if you remember, a few years ago, you encouraged me to curate something, and then I did. And it worked out really amazing with having Leslie Sarr and a few other people in there, and Lee Salgado. And I just want to thank you for helping me be gutsy. And I look forward to figuring out what I'm going to talk about now. So I'm excited.
Yay. Well, I think we're good tonight, unless anyone has any other questions. Thank you so much, Betty. I bow down to you. I am not worthy.
Thank you, Betty.
Amen, Betty. Yay, Betty.
Yes, Betty.
Well, Andy, I bow down to you.
Hey, Betty.
Betty.
Thank you so much, and for helping everyone. And you're so much more patient with everyone than I am. I basically am like, come on, you guys, just put this together. I'm so glad that you were able to stop, and you had some time tonight to stop and present this and kind of go step by step and make it a little bit easier to understand, so it's not so crazy. And I think for most artists, they like hear curation and they're like, oh my God, I don't want to do that.
You made it very easy, Betty, step by step.
Yes.
I mean, not that it will be easy, but you made it like, okay, we can breathe and have something to reference. We can do this.
Yeah, and we're not looking for you guys to write crazy artist statements or crazy curatorial statements, but I'd say Betty's offered to help you with that. I can also help you with that. Even if it's just bullet points of points you're making by putting images together. That's all you need. And it's kind of like a cheat sheet for yourself, because if you do it well, people won't need the statement, because they'll look at the work that's paired with the other work and understand the point that you're making. Yeah. So thank you all tonight for joining us. And thank you again, Betty. I'm serious. I'm totally serious. You are amazing.
Namaste. Namaste.
And
namaste.
See you next Wednesday.
Bye, Stephanie.
See you Wednesday.
Yeah, if I don't see you Wednesday, I'll see you next Friday. So Kipaipai
Happy Hour.
Larry, you look so great.